You know, you have it off.
Dave, yeah.
Okay.
What, there's still people in the waiting.
Yeah, I was just gonna, because everybody. With the mute.
Now, we're unmuted, everyone. They're just rowdy today, extremely rowdy.
We'll get it going here.
Oh, you know, give them a little pizza. Who knows what happens?
All right, we want to get going?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Is this yours? No.
Thanks. We're all set. Sylvia?
Yes,
All right, I'd like to call to order the October 28th, 25 meeting of the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. I'd like to take action on minutes and roll call.
all right.
Motion to approve.
Let's start with Auburn and none other than Bill Jean, our chair.
Present and abstain.
All right, Bedford, we have in the house Ed Kaminsky.
Present.
And online we have, oh, sorry, and also in the room is Mark Snyder.
Present.
Thank you. Online from Bedford, we have John Nelson.
Present, abstain.
Thanks, John. And Nadir Ali.
Present, abstain.
Thank you so much. From Candia in-house, we have Ron Lavender.
Present, yes.
From Chester, we have Deb Munson in-house.
Present and yes.
Thanks, Deb. Deerfield, we have Errol Rhodes.
Present and yes.
All right, so far so good. From Derry here, we have Richard Tripp.
Present and abstain.
Thanks, Richard. And online, we have Jeff Moulton
Here and yes.
and John O'Connor.
Present and yes.
Thanks, John. Francistown, we have Gary Schneckenberg in-house.
Present and yes.
Thanks, John. Not John, what am I saying? Gary, Goffstown, online, we have Jacob LaFontaine.
Present and yes.
Thanks, Jacob. Let's see, no one from Hooksett today. From Londonderry in-house, we have Art Rugg.
I am present and yes on the minutes.
And we have online Deb Levens.
Present and yes on minutes.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna ask Dave to keep a watch on letting folks in. Let's see, that was Londonderry. Manchester in-house, we have Dan O'Neill,
Here and yes.
Eliza Augusta,
Here and yes.
Peter Capano.
Here and abstain.
All right, thank you. From New Boston, I don't believe we have anyone. Yeah, Ellen's en route back home. She wasn't feeling too well. Where we have Danny Jean Stewart online.
Present and abstain.
Thanks, Danny. From Wyndham in-house, we have Peter Griffin.
Present and yes.
Thanks, Peter. And online, we have DJ Withy.
Present and abstain.
Wonderful. Thanks, DJ. Do we have anyone from DOT? I don't see anyone from DOT. Okay. For our non-voting members, we have Jack Wade from DES.
No.
And Matt Baronis from Central Regional Planning Commission.
Hey, everyone.
Hey. So, oh, I see we have Andrew Haddock online. From Chester. Andrew, did you want to do a here and something?
Present and abstain.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Did I miss anyone else? All right. Then, of course, we have staff, but let's get going. We have a
All right.
agenda.
Okay, on to new business. MTA's new transit center with informational only, and we have Adam presenting. Is it?
I think this has been slated for, oh no, he was slated to come today. And I'm not sure where our friend Mike is. I wonder, Dave, you're online. Can you please email Mike Whitten and see if he's late or what's happening with him?
All right, we'll do.
All right, and in the meanwhile,
he did say he was going to attend.
Yeah, I thought I saw that.
Yeah, something's come up, so let's put it
Last-
later on in the.
Over?
Yeah, let's go to
All right,
the trip.
we'll reverse order here and go to the trip. Suzanne.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think I have my presentation up. Um, Okay, picking up the presentation, if Pam or anyone else from the team can confirm that it went into full screen.
Yes, it is.
Excellent, thank you so much. Great. So, hi, everyone. Thank you all.
Hi, Suzanne.
Thank you all for being here today. This is a big day. So I think we've been talking about this project for about a year and change. The Transportation Resilience Improvement Plan, we have a final draft that's ready for adoption, and we're hopeful the MPO will choose to adopt it today. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of a refresh of how far we've come and some recent changes based upon comments received, and then answer any final comments or questions that you might have. Just to review the basics, the Transportation Resilience Improvement Plan is a voluntary planning opportunity that was established under the Federal PROTECT program. That stands for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. If anyone here can ever like rattle that off on the tip of your tongue, I've been working on it for quite some time, and I still have to read it every single time.
It doesn't flow.
It doesn't really, but it's a really important federal legislation because it allows for communities to really prepare for and plan for unexpected natural disasters, really address issues related to flooding and other natural hazards. So it's a very cool program, and a resilience improvement plan can be completed by two entities, either a state DOT or an MPO. The New Hampshire State DOT actually completed theirs earlier this year. I believe it was adopted in March. And as we've discussed at various other presentations, there's been a lot of back and forth and kind of uncertainty around the federal discretionary grants under the PROTECT program. So one thing we decided to do a few months ago was really take a chance on streamlining our efforts. At first, we were thinking very big, and then when we saw that there was some uncertainty around funding, we decided to be smart. We're like, let's take what DOT has done. They hired a fantastic consultant, Cambridge Systematics. They did work around the state to capture flood-related data. And what we decided to do, Zach and I chose to use their data set and adapt it for our purposes so that we could really create a trip that was tailored to us, but that did not require the level of kind of data collection and massaging and analysis that we had initially planned. So just for ease of differentiation, we decided to call ours a trip because I think it's a nicer acronym than RIP. But also it helps us distinguish us from the state resilience improvement plan. Ours is the SNHPC Regions of Transportation Resilience Improvement Plan.
So there's the RIP.
There is, there's so I think when we first raised this opportunity, probably a little over a year ago, one thing that folks got really excited about is the potential for local cost share reduction for projects that are included in the trip. And there's two ways to get to your maximum cost share reduction. One way, any project that's prioritized in a resilience improvement plan, or in our case, the trip, qualifies for a 7% reduction in local cost share. And if that project, if the resilience improvement plan is also incorporated into a long-range transportation plan, in our case, the MTP that James is working on right now, and he's going to make sure it gets incorporated into that, that means all of the projects will then qualify for an additional 3% cost share reduction. So instead of that 80-20 match that most projects have, this would be a 90-10 once we kind of get this fully integrated into an adopted MTP. So it's a very exciting opportunity. So we had an initial draft out since June, and this was reviewed by key stakeholders. And I have to say that review process was incredibly helpful. So we did a detailed read through with folks from the Federal Highway Administration. Lee Levine actually connected us with Protect staff at the federal level, and they walked us through opportunities. They wanted to make sure we made this as effective as possible. We got great feedback from DOT. I also really enjoyed getting feedback from DES and folks at the Nature Conservancy, people who are coming at this from more of an ecological or environmental conservation lens versus transportation, because we will likely be working with them on implementation, and it was really helpful to see where we could clarify our language and make it more legible, no matter what kind of professional background you're coming from. And then we also had several folks around the region who actually took some time to read through and give us comments as well. And so that was really valuable. Overall, very positive responses, and we did get pointed in the direction of opportunities to make minor edits and updates, largely for clarification. Go ahead and let our friend.
Yeah, I got Mike on the phone.
Excellent. So some notable clarifications, and if you don't have time to, if you hadn't had a chance to review the latest revision, I would point you to page 37, where we kind of create a simplified FAQ that points to basically the clarifications we wanted to get across for this plan. One, people had questions about, well, if these are supposed to be prioritized projects, why aren't they ranked? And this was a question that we brought to Federal Highways Administration and we got clarification from them verbally, and so far, through all communication we've had with them, that the very act of being included in the trip makes a project prioritized. So that means anything on the list, if a community chose to apply for a federal discretionary grant, if it's in the trip, it would be considered a prioritized project. When we realized that's the only threshold we needed to meet, we were like, we don't need to go through a labor-intensive ranking exercise. We just know just inclusion in the plan qualifies as prioritization. The other thing, people had questions, well, if you use DOT's data set, why are there differences in your list versus the statewide list? And a couple of reasons for that. One, the state has to look at everything. They have a much broader kind of scope of frame of reference. So they're looking at projects related to coastal flooding, sea level rise. So they're considering other portions and other hazards around the state that we don't address. The other reason is we actually chose to use a different layer of data than they chose to use in the end. And this was a conversation that we had based upon Zach's knowledge about what's going on in the region, and also just the fact that at the state level they were able to do a cost-based risk assessment that tended to eliminate some of the projects from our region, because as you can imagine, coastal flooding projects might have a lot more kind of advantage on that front. So we chose to use their vulnerability layer. And so we chose to use a different layer of data. Federal Highways agreed with that assessment. So we went that route to identify our priority project list. Lastly, one of the things we talked about is how important it is to be able to incorporate new projects as needed. There's a couple reasons for that. We do this all the time. If we do a TIP amendment or something like that, right? There's a new project, there's a change that needs to happen. We want to see something else included in this plan. And there might be cases where this is a quantitative analysis. There might be local issues happening in your communities that are not reflected in the project list. We want to make sure there's a way to kind of integrate those ideas. So we basically recognize the fact that this body can choose to integrate additional projects by amendment. The other thing I want to highlight is many times, a lot of the projects we talk about we think about funding mechanisms based upon what is available for federal aid, like Fed aid eligible roads. My understanding and Lee Levine's understanding and everyone we've talked to so far has led us to believe that for Protect funds specifically, you can look at local roads that would not be typically available for federal aid or eligible for federal aid. And so that's a great opportunity. If a community sees that there's a problem happening on local roads, they can come to this group. They can say, we want to apply for a Protect Federal discretionary grant, and we'd like our project added to the list, and we can choose to do that as an MPO. So that is kind of a summary of some of the clarifications. In terms of adoption process, because this is a voluntary plan, there's no requisite review period or kind of public hearing required. However, y'all probably have received messages from myself or Aloyo over the past few months. We've posted on social media, we've added it to our media blasts and newsletters. We've really done everything we can to get the word out that this is available, and we'd welcome comments. And we have not received anything of significance since we kind of did that initial round of edits that I talked about. So with that in mind, we are hoping that the MPO policy committee will choose to adopt this today. And once that happens, we'll reach out to Leland Mine at Federal Highways and request a determination letter so that will state that any project will instantly be eligible for that 7% local cost share reduction. And then we'll get that letter revised once we have this integrated into an adopted MTP.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Great job, great work. Any questions for Suzanne?
Hi, Suzanne. The question I have is whether this plan is specific to a transportation region.
To a it's specific to our MPO.
Right.
Yes.
So Francistown is in a different transit region.
Oh, true. Are you talking about transit?
Yeah.
No, this is our.
Our MPO.
We're included.
Got it.
There are projects, I will say the final project list, I believe, has projects from every community. There's the 58 on the list currently.
Okay.
Yeah, you're included, you're in. Francistown is in.
Any other questions?
How does the state and regional interact? Are there projects that are on both plans? And then how does that work is it just if it's in either plan, you get the funding?
Yep, okay. If it's in either plan, and everything that's in the state plan that's in our region is also included in ours. So for everyone's purpose in this room, our list will be more comprehensive.
It's worth noting that, I think it includes local roads.
Yep, exactly.
So whereas the state might only be concerned with state roads.
Any additional questions,
Bridges.
Yep.
And the dams as well.
We don't have dam projects included because those are not.
That's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, but definitely there are bridges, culverts, and also the other thing is, because we're looking at this geographically, where are the highest flood hazard risks, there are cases where projects we weren't necessarily thinking of as resilience projects, like an intersection improvement, like a road capacity issue or something like that. Once you map it, you realize, oh, actually, this is a flood hazard concern. So we want to make sure that this project, when this moves forward in the kind of the 10-year plan process, that we start to think about the resiliency measures that need to happen for this particular site. So there might be things in there that you would not necessarily think of because it's not a bridge, it's not a culvert replacement, right? There's other sites you might see in there that you did not expect.
This is all new projects or existing projects?
New, everything was generated based upon our existing planning framework. So we drew from the TIP, the 10-year plan, the MTP, also anything that was related to TAP. We basically, with CMAQ, what are the things, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We wanted to say, well, what's our project list that we already have at our fingertips? And then use that kind of mapping and vulnerability layer to see which things fell into areas of high flood risk and that would need to be addressed from a resiliency standpoint.
Deb.
I know that there's a river, I'm not sure whether it's the Lamprey or the Exeter, that is on the border between Chester and Raymond, and there's a bridge that goes over there.
Yeah.
And that is flooded in the past. But I noticed in the report that 102 is a road of high concern or something like that. And so I'm not sure whether the bridge counts as Chester or.
Oh, the one that's, I know. And Andrew, let me actually take this off of screen share so that if anybody else wants to weigh in, we can see folks online. I know that there's two bridges that are close to the Raymond town line. The one that's in Raymond would not be included in our plan.
Okay.
The one that's in Chester would.
Okay.
But I'm also I haven't memorized every single project on the list. But keep in mind that if you don't see your project, you can also propose to have it added.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suzanne, when you said new projects, when we go through the 10-year plan, some of them have already had some
planning or engineering done. In order to qualify for this, does the project have to start clean hands with no?
I think my understanding, and we don't have any, we have not, no one in our region has applied for a protect discretionary grant yet. So I think that at any particular point in the process, if a community chose to submit and say, this, we want to make this project more resiliency focused, we now have this in the plan, we're recognizing how vulnerable it is to flooding, that even if you've done some preliminary work that I think you could add on additional resiliency components, we would, however, want to check in with Lee Levine and be connected with other folks in the Protect program to really get confirmation about and get their perspective, because this is, as you can imagine, like a lot of things are evolving at the federal level. And so it's always worth checking before you do anything kind of labor intensive in an application process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions?
This is on the website.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Richard?
Now, these are, if it's susceptible to flooding, would this be a 50-year event, a 100-year event?
We chose
How do you gauge it?
Yeah, so I wish Zach was here. Zach is having a lovely vacation in London right now, and he was our our data analysis guru for this project. He and I talked about this, and we decided to go with the most conservative interpretation. So we use the 50-year time frame, 100-year flood time frame. Well, no, that we use a 100-year flood, but basically whatever DOT described as their kind of target, we actually, I think, stepped it back from in terms of like what would happen in a 50-year period versus, sorry, I'm not going to describe it as well as Zach can, but we chose that we basically, when we were deciding between two numbers, we chose the more conservative one with less chance of flooding, just to make it a little bit more defensible. When as soon as you start predicting further on to the future, there's a lot more questions, right? Yeah.
All right,
Thank you. Any questions from our virtual audience?
No.
okay.
Seeing none, thank you, Suzanne.
Should we entertain a motion?
Yes, we are looking to adopt that. Do we have a motion?
Move, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Dan,
Dan O'Neill.
we have a
And who?
motion
was
and
the
a second.
Errol was the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Andrew's got something.
It's just thumbs up.
Yeah, the thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Great.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thumbs up. Appreciate it, Suzanne. Congrats. Thanks.
Thank
Work. So Sylvia, I assume we want to go back to NPA's new transit center.
I do. You want to,
And this is an informational only?
yeah, we have Mike Whitten. I think most people know Mike. He's the executive director over at MTA, and he's going to tell us all about it.
All right, good morning. I've sent the request to share the screen.
Right, I'm trying to find your three dots. Where are your three dots?
Mike, you should have screen access now.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So are you all seeing the map of the property?
We are.
Perfect. All right.
Kind of small, Mike. Can you enlarge that at all?
Yeah, let's try to zoom in here.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, right.
There we go.
There you go. Let's go on a little bit. There, that'll
Thank
work.
you. Yep.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, MTA has been running public transit service here in the greater Manchester area for 52 years now. And that's 52 winters that our 350,000 passengers have stood on sidewalks, making all their bus connections, waiting for buses to arrive. Our hub has been Veterans Park, and then the other side of the street in front of what is now the DoubleTree. Very excited that after about 10 years worth of kind of stop and go efforts, we were awarded a grant last summer to finally build our first ever transit center. And we are going to do it right here at MTA's existing facility, mostly because we're already parallel to the tracks. So the idea was, okay, let's build a a multimodal transit center that will work for buses today, but also sets us up well if commuter rail ever becomes a reality. The tracks are right next door. We don't have to kind of start from scratch and build something all over again. Should make the connectivity much easier. So what you see on the map is the existing MTA facility. The new one is going to go in what is the empty parking lot, kind of on the top to the north of the current building. And then this picture, I use this one because it really shows where the addition was put on. That is the current administrative space. That will get demolished. So the building will sit out here, and then the buses will pull in. There'll be sawtooth bus parking all along the perimeter for different bus bays. So the buses will drive through where I am currently sitting. But the rest of the MTA facility, our vehicle storage and our maintenance shop will stay. That won't be changed at all. The biggest hurdle so far has been we need to relocate these 80 beautiful yellow and black school buses. So MTA exited the school bus market last June in preparation for this project, but we did agree to continue to maintain and store the school buses for the district through June of 2026. So we're in our last school year, kind of coming down the home stretch there. I don't know as of yet what the district's plan is for where they're moving their buses to, but we will need that space, one for retention pond, and then two for employee parking. That's what is in that lot right now. That's empty in the photo, but that's where all the bus drivers and staff park during the day. So that's full. That will have to flip to the back side of the building, and they will all now park where the school buses are. So we spent 2025 going through the NEPA process. That is hopefully just about done. The last piece was some archaeological site work up in what is the green area at the very top, because that's never been developed. So FTA had us bring someone up, and they went out and excavated a little bit and did their site surveys. They did not find anything that I'm aware of, so we're just waiting for the formal report to come in so we can submit that to Region 1 for approval, and that should wrap up NEPA. As soon as we have that approval in hand, we're ready. We already have the RFP ready to go for project management, so we'll release that. The hope is that that gets out at the end of this calendar year so that we can make an award shortly after the new year. And have that all in place for breaking ground once the construction season happens, depending on when the ground thaws and we can open it up. Supposed to be a 2-year build, so probably 2.5 years from now is when we would be hoping to have some sort of ribbon cutting and be in the facility. And that will move all of our operations from Veterans Park down here. This is where all the buses will go. This is where the connections to our intercity service to Nashua, Concord, Salem, that will all happen out of here. Don't know if anyone has any questions on that part so far.
We do have one in the room, Mike, Richard.
The rail service, is that area currently a rail trail, or is there actually track there?
No, that's track. That's a freight line currently. So the trains go through here every day.
Oh, I thought the trains were on the other side.
No. So what you can't tell from this really well is it is a pretty steep embankment. So if you were to come sit in my office and look out the window, you would look right over those tracks. You wouldn't know they were there. You've got to walk out. We have fencing kind of where the red dashing is, and it's a pretty steep drop off. So that's something that they'll have to kind of deal with if and when rail comes up. That's kind of the biggest geographic barrier to connecting the two. But I mean, if you're putting a commuter rail, I don't think a little hillside is going to be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for clarification purposes, there is a rail trail, but it's on the other side of the tracks from the MTA property that he's describing. So
correct, over on the west side of the tracks. Yep.
Well, the Riverside Trail, I don't think there is rail there.
Right.
Correct.
Because people are people like their rail trails, and if you were to take the rail trail away, you'd probably have a lot of resistance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we like trains too, don't we?
Not the case here.
Mark.
Yeah, that was one of my questions is there the ability to, or
to even connect into the trail.
There is. So one of the parts, I think right now, the DOT has some track space right behind what is currently a market basket as the city's preferred location. I don't know if that would change if and when some actual construction funding was available. One of the challenges there, this map does not go far enough up to show that, but there's not a lot of space there. So you can probably squeeze in a platform behind the building, but that's going to be about it. One of the things that I like about down here, yes, we're 1 mile south of the city center, but the right of way is wide enough that you can have kind of a pull-out, a spur track into a platform. You have space for some storage. You have space for an actual connecting facility to get people a little more protection from the cold and the elements than just a bare bones platform. There's a lot of space here.
Hi, Mike. This is Brian from Londonderry. How are you today?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. So I'm looking at your map, and a couple years back, we were also looking at the Manchester Master Plan, and I think I remember seeing a multi-use transit station being closer to Granite Street. Was that proposed at one point?
Yeah, so that's still the city's preferred rail location. So, but like I said, they won't have room to build anything other than a platform there. That was never going to be able to have multimodal connections. There's no room for any buses there. I think the plan that they had evaluated had a total of 3 parking spaces. So I personally have some questions about whether that really is the best place to put it, but that was the decision of the folks at the time.
Okay, because I do know that along with the transit station, there were a lot of changes to the South Commercial Street area proposed. And I was just wondering what the discussion was on the other one. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah, and we're working closely with the city. They have I think it's a RAISE grant that is connecting kind of the roadway behind the ballpark, kind of dead ends right now. That's going to connect through to Gas Street. That's an important part of this project for us because that's going to be another way that we can get buses out that are heading kind of north, or things like the Green Dash that are going to go serve the mill yard. Everything right now would have to just go up and down Gas Street because you really can't get buses out on the River's Edge side, Elliott at River's Edge.
Yeah,
so everything would go up the hill to Elm Street. It's okay, but it will be a lot better once that street network is done. So we're working in parallel with the city for that.
So the other thing I remember somewhat is if the multi-transit station was going to be built somewhere in the area of South Commercial, they were trying to have an outlet for traffic go onto the Queen City Bridge area. Is that something that's also still being considered?
Not that I know of. So this ends just too soon. This is right here. It's Queen City right at the very bottom of this. This is River's Edge, so going over the bridge. We're close, but that street network, Hamilton Street, really isn't something that you can send full-size transit buses up. And then it dead ends at Vernon Street anyway. It doesn't connect all the way through to Queen City. You have to make that right onto Hancock and come up the side of River's Edge. So we could do that with some of our smaller cutaway buses, but this is really residential in here. So the plan would be to use the Gas Street and then the connections through to commercial for buses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have another question in-house, Mike. James.
Hey, Mike, it's James Vail from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. You remember a couple of years ago, we did a concept for a transit-oriented development that kind of centered around the Elliott River's Edge and MTA facilities. And I'm wondering if there's a concept plan for the layout of the new transit center, and if there any thought has gotten to like how that might reconcile with what was a lot of thinking that went into the transit-oriented development plan in terms of like, connectivity, facilitating collaboration between public and private developers and just facilitating that area to grow economically.
Yeah, hopefully you are now seeing we'll zoom in on this one. They're seeing the new plan, the kind of schedule. So yeah, this is a little more detail. So this is as what it will look like when we build it. The existing bus storage and maintenance stays, like I had said, the busway comes through. This is the new building. It's a two-story building. So the bottom was where passengers will wait, dispatch will be there, ticket sales, all of lost and found, all of that type of stuff. And then admin that gets demolished over here goes onto the second floor there. So still keeps us right at the heart of operations. And then the buses will mostly be around that initial island perimeter. There is a secondary island just because we have too many routes to fit in a single one. We did not, James, continue with there was at one point talk of, instead of doing this on what is the north side of MTA's existing facility, doing it out the back so that we would have room where the Elliott property hasn't been fully developed. There's another parcel there that kind of right now is just open space. But honestly, we couldn't figure out a way to get through the NEPA. So for those that aren't familiar, from an FTA side, you have to complete the NEPA review before you can put an offer in on the property. And just something that I wasn't able to find a developer willing to have us come in and do a whole environmental review with no guarantee that we put in a bid or make a purchase. So that's something I'm hoping Congress will remedy in their next round of transportation authorization. It needs to be like highway. Highway, you can go in and make the offer and do the NEPA piece second, but FTA doesn't allow that currently. So that's the other reason we ended up on this side, is we didn't have to do any land acquisition. We already own all of this.
Any additional questions? Mike, did you have more information you were going to provide?
No, just I was going to pull this up just to kind of show folks hopefully the before and after. Excited for it. It's one of those things that, I think I have so far underestimated a little bit of the preliminary, just how long NEPA and some of this regulatory stuff was going to take. I'm excited to actually open the ground up and start building this. I'm ready to get passengers in and get them out of the snow and all of that. So I'm excited for what this is going to do for MTA, for the city, and for our ridership. I think it's going to make a very big difference. It's also going to help with some of the cost pieces. So the number one factor right now for people that qualify for what we call Step Saver, it's our ADA mandated paratransit service, is exposure. It's folks who, because of their health condition, they can't wait outside when it's 10 degrees or it's raining or it's snowing or travel on ice. So that connectivity, being outdoors at Veterans Park, drives up our paratransit costs because there's a number of people who just cannot navigate that, who, once we can offer them, a sheltered, warm, heated place with spaces to sit and bathrooms, we're not looking to make this super fancy or anything, just kind of basic human services for our riders. I think that's going to be a real positive.
We have another hand raised online from Ben.
Hey, Mike, it's Ben. I was wondering if what potential potential you can see from this in terms of how this could expand service or open up capacity for new service, whether if it's like more time frames or bringing back intercity bus stops to Manchester with this. I was just wondering if you could speak on what opportunities you could see once the transit center is completed.
Yeah, so great question. So one of the things, anyone who's talked to me about transit, and apologies to those of you that have been trapped in that discussion with me, but I am a big advocate on increasing MTA's frequency. So when I came, if your bus ran hourly, that was a good route. And a lot of our routes were every 2 or 4 hours. That's not convenient enough. There's the reason, one of my first board meetings, I asked our board members how many of them had ever been on a bus, and not one hand went up. If it's not convenient enough for us to use it, It's not good enough. For transit to really reach its full potential, you have to get what we call choice riders on the bus. MTA's current service does a great job for transit dependent populations. If you don't have any other way to get there, the bus will get you there. It may not be convenient, it may not be at the time you want, but we will get you where you're trying to go. We are constrained with our current hub at Veterans Park at current service levels because I'm out of room. So we create kind of faux frequency pieces by duplicating paths on the routes. So for example, CMC, Catholic Medical Center over on the west side. Route 6 and Route 7 both travel over the Bridge Street Bridge and then down McGregor Street so that they serve Catholic Medical Center. We only have both of those kind of duplicating that service path because one leaves at the top of the hour, one leaves at the bottom of the hour. So there's 30-minute frequency to CMC, but it's two different routes. You have to know two schedules and you have to kind of be able to see that. Like if you think, oh, I take the 6 to CMC and you don't realize that the Bedford Grove bus also goes by it, it's easy to miss. This gives us enough space that all of our buses can go to every 30 minutes or even every 15 minutes because we're not confined to just one city block. We have enough space here to ramp up service like we would like to see it. The other piece is on the evening. So we have had mixed results in our evening service, and I'd say 3 out of 4 comments we get back from riders who end up not using it is just a lack of feeling safe at Veterans Park. It's a challenging place. The city has done a great job with us trying to make that, a well-lit place, changing the built environment to make it less desirable for folks to kind of just come and set up camp or anything. The police have a station right there at the Welcome Center, which is great. You have police presence, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that can be done there that can compare to giving them a place inside lit out of the elements, and that's just a bus station. There's nothing else happening down here. Nobody's going to be at the MTA Transit Center because it's on their way walking someplace else. We are bounded by the gas company, by the railroad tracks, and by Elliott at River's Edge. So the geography, I think, really works well to us to keep this a transit use facility. Does that help, Ben?
It does, yes. Thank you.
We have another question, Mike, in-house, sir.
Yeah, Harold Rhodes. So if you have the buses, more frequency, do you have the drivers?
We do. So we have, knock on wood, never had a transit driver shortage. We've certainly had a school bus driver shortage when we used to do all the school bus routes for the city, but so far we've been able to recruit new drivers anytime we've had a vacancy. So the hope is that would continue. MTA's a pretty compelling wage and benefits package. So we are the highest paying transit job in the state.
Nice. Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the information.
Absolutely.
We got one more question. Eliza, last one.
I know the answer to this, but I want it on the record. Will there be bike storage?
Of course.
Good answer.
Good question, good answer. Perfect. We'll end on that note. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. And thank you, Suzanne, for flip-flopping with me as I was running a little behind at the start.
Of course, no problem.
All right. Any other business that needs to come before the MPO?
I don't think so.
Not, we'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second here,
Wait, who was the
Peter.
Peter and Art?
All in favor? Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely.
On the heels of that, let's call to order the September 28th or October 28th meeting of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. We'll look for
We go around the horn.
action on minutes and go around the horn.
You need a motion on it?
Motion on minute.
We let Dan on the motion
Second,
and
Earl.
Errol on the second. All right, Auburn, we have Bill.
Present and abstain.
Bedford, Ed.
Present and I.
John,
Present, abstain.
thanks, John. I'm just going quickly. Nadir,
President abstain.
thank you. Candy, we have Ron,
Present, yes.
Chester Deb, Andrew.
President, yes.
Thanks, Andrew. Deerfield, we have Errol.
Present.
Derry, we have Richard.
Present and abstain.
Jeff,
Here and yes.
John.
Present and here.
Thanks, John. Francistown, Gary.
Present and yes, with one correction. On the discussion of Naomi's winning of the Tethers Award, the spelling of where is the where in the state of Massachusetts, W-A-R-E.
Oh.
So it just needs an E thrown in there for our purposes.
Thank you.
Here in the Granite
Thanks
State.
for throwing in that E. Goffstown, we have Jacob. Jacob still here?
President, yes.
Thanks, Jacob. Londonderry in-house, we have, no one in-house in Londonderry. Oh, yes, we do. We have Arthur.
Present and yes on the minutes.
Sorry, Art.
That's all right.
My notes are a little, funny. Brian Battaglia?
Here and yes, I came in a few minutes later today.
Yes. And Deb? I heard the here. Yeah. And I'm thinking you said yes. Your
There we go.
microphone's kind of funky. All right, Manchester, we have Dan,
Here and yes.
Eliza,
Here and yes.
Peter,
Here and abstain.
and where with an E, we have Danny.
Here and abstain.
Thank you. From Wyndham, DJ online.
Here and abstain.
Thanks, DJ. And we have Peter Griffin in-house.
Here and yes.
All right.
I want to add that Mark Snyder is here.
Oh,
Yes.
how I do that? Okay, Mark Snyder. Yeah, I have you right there, highlighted. Thank you, Mark.
Perfect.
Anyone else I forgot?
Ed from Wyndham.
Ed from Wyndham. Oh,
Here and yes.
Ed made it. Ed Lapointe from Wyndham.
Who's
Yep.
here there too.
All
We have one item of new business. It's an informational session only for Household Hazardous Waste Program. We have Jill Longval from Special Projects Planner, Rockingham Planning Commission, making the presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
Jill, I invited Jill. I heard this was a fantastic project from my cohorts over in Rockingham Planning Commission. So thanks, Jill, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Let's see. Can everybody see this presentation and hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
All right.
We see
Great.
some, I see polyurethane that's in my house.
This was actually a picture from the back of my car at the last HHW event that I attended, cleaning up my house. So, again, thank you for having me and taking some time out of your day to learn about the Rockingham Planning Commission's Household Hazardous Waste Feasibility Study. So just to begin with, household hazardous waste, or HHW, are products that contain corrosive, flammable, toxic, or reactive ingredients. And the most common items we receive at collections include things like oil-based paints, solvents and thinners, automotive products, things like antifreeze, used oil, old gas, household cleaners, pesticides, herbicides, and aerosols. The limited and infrequent nature of HHW collections in the RPC region increases the likelihood that residents will improperly dispose of their HHW. And when HHW is improperly disposed of, it can pollute water, threaten human health, and harm wildlife. So the goal for this project was to determine which methods of HHW collection were feasible in the RPC region to provide residents with more frequent and convenient opportunities to dispose of their HHW. Just to give you an overview of what currently exists, every municipality in the RPC region has access to a household hazardous waste collection. All collection events in the RPC region are conducted as single-day events. There are no permanent HHW collection facilities in the region. There are 10 single-day collections every year and 11 single-day collections every other year. There are no collection events in the region during the months of January, February, March, June, July, August, November, or December. Newton and Salem are the only municipalities in our region that do not collaborate with other communities to run their HHW collections. And the remaining communities are organized as shown on the map. And you can see that we have 2 communities from your region that also participate in HHW collection events hosted by communities in the RPC region. 57% of households in our region have access to 1 collection event every year. 41% have access to 2 collection events per year. And Newton, which represents 2% of our region's population, has access to 1 collection event every other year. In 2024, there were 3,428 households that participated in a collection event region-wide. That year, the region spent $366,543.96 on HHW disposal. The average cost per event in 2024 was $33,322.18. The lowest cost event that year was $11,742, and the highest cost event was $50,000. The cost per participating household also varies widely across the region, from a low of $38 per participating household to a high of $217 per participating household, with the average cost in 2024 being just $106.93. So as I mentioned, the goal of this project was to determine which collection methods were feasible in the region to provide residents with more frequent and convenient collection opportunities. And specifically, we looked at the feasibility of adding single-day collection events, establishing a permanent HHW collection facility, and implementing curbside HHW collection. So single-day collection events, the ones we're all pretty familiar with, they're typically held on publicly owned sites like parking lots, transfer stations, schools, fire stations, public works buildings, wastewater treatment plants. They're often scheduled on a Saturday in the spring or fall. Municipal staff typically provide things like traffic control and signage, and they're responsible for participant registration and surveys. And then municipalities hire a qualified hazardous waste vendor to handle the HHW collection, transportation, and disposal of the materials collected. And as I said, currently all the collection events in our region are held as single-day events. Some of the benefits of single-day collection events: the set date can provide motivation for people. Some people respond well to an imposed deadline, making it more likely that they would attend a single-day collection rather than using a permanent facility. Single-day collections have manageable costs. There's no need for a large capital expense, and municipalities have control over their budget by limiting the number of participants that can come to an event or the number of events that they hold. In addition, there's limited liability. Most of the liability falls on the vendor, who assumes generator status for the waste. They're easy to event. These events have a limited duration. They can be run as a turnkey operation by the vendor. They follow the same procedure every event, and they can be set up in a wide variety of locations. And finally, they're easy to promote. Residents already have a really good understanding of how these single-day events work. Some of the downsides of single-day events is that they have a high cost to volume collected ratio, and they also have pretty significant setup costs. There's limited participation. Even the best single-day events only serve about 5% of their households per year. There's limitations on the event themselves. Due to the need for quick operations, it can sometimes come at the expense of efficient packing, which adds to costs. In addition, there's not typically time to set up a swap shop or a reuse center. They're weather dependent. Single-day events are not typically held in the winter months. There's concern about safety and liability both at the event and at households. At the event, the fast pace and large volume of material collected in a single event makes accidents more likely. There's also concerns about traffic congestion at the event. And at households, if residents are having to wait upwards of a year to dispose of their HHW, it can create unsafe storage conditions for homeowners. They're inconvenient. Single-day collections provide limited opportunities for participation, often, as I said, just once or twice a year. In addition, single-day collections can have long wait times and long lines, making them less convenient. And finally, there's no opportunities for ongoing education. Single-day collections require a concentrated outreach effort on a tight schedule, and then outreach and education typically stops until the next event, which can be up to a year later. Unlike single-day collection events, permanent HHW facilities operate at the same location on a regular schedule and can receive HHW from residents on a continuous basis. Residents enter the site and drive their cars under a covered unloading area. Then staff come out to the cars, take the participants' contact information, and unload the HHW materials onto a cart. Residents then exit the site or park in designated spaces to visit a swap shop if there's one set up. Then the staff log the materials and move them to a designated holding area. This is also the area where lab testing would occur if needed. Then once the materials are identified and sorted, they're either lab packed or bulked in a processing area. The materials are then moved to a main storage building and stored by hazard type. Flammables and other high hazard materials are moved from the main building to prefabricated hazmat storage buildings. And then finally, the materials are transported from the permanent HHW collection facility by a licensed hauler when the storage capacity or storage time limits have been reached. So in this picture here from Fresno County, California, their permanent facility, you can see where the cars would enter under the covered unloading area, and then you can see the carts that would be used to unload the vehicles. And on the sides, you can see the tan prefab hazmat storage buildings. In the background, you can see where cars would park to use a swap shop. So a couple more examples here. In the pictures on the right, you can see more examples of the prefabricated hazmat storage buildings for flammables and other high hazard materials. And in the picture on the left, you can see where staff are storing materials that have been offloaded from vehicles, and you can see the hazmat storage buildings in the background. So some of the benefits of a permanent HHW collection facility, they're definitely convenient. Residents can dispose of their HHW when they want to or need to, rather than having to wait up to a year for a single-day collection event. In addition, there's not typically long wait times to drop off material once residents arrive at the site. They have higher participation rates. It's not uncommon for a permanent facility to serve 10% of their households per year, and some well-established permanent facilities serve anywhere between 14 to 17% of their households each year. They're sustainable. Of the 20 pioneering permanent HHW facilities that were established in 1990 or earlier, all of them are still in existence. They provide more opportunities for reuse. It's definitely easier to set up a swap shop at a permanent facility. They allow for ongoing education. They're not weather dependent. They can operate year round. They provide more safety at households and at the event, again, because homeowners are not having to store their waste for long periods of time. And at the event, the facility can spread out participation arrivals, allowing for a slower pace that makes accidents less likely. And the operating costs at permanent HHW collection facilities are almost always less than at single-day collection events. And some of the factors that contribute to this include more efficient packing and consolidating of waste, which reduces cost of packing supplies, shipping, and disposal costs. Waiting to ship until there are full containers and a full truckload, rather than having to ship partially filled containers at the end of a single-day event. The ability to divert goods to local community reuse through a swap shop, the ability to leverage existing administration and operational resources, such as cross-training municipal employees to reduce the reliance on contractor staff, having the HHW vendor come during the week, thereby avoiding higher weekend contractor labor costs, and the avoidance of setup and teardown costs for each collection event. For example, in 2024 and 2025, the Exeter area collection event, we paid $5,500 per event just in setup fees. Some of the downsides of a permanent collection facility, capital costs. Unless the community can enter into a public-private partnership, capital costs must be raised to construct the permanent collection facility. Permanent collection facilities require a larger annual operating budget than single-day events due to their higher participation rates. Depending on where the facility is located, it may be a further drive for some residents than their current single-day event. And then obviously finding a suitable location for a permanent collection facility can be challenging. The final type of collection event we looked at was curbside collection. And curbside HHW collection allows residents to dispose of their HHW directly from their homes rather than traveling to a single-day collection or a permanent facility. Municipalities contract with a vendor to provide all aspects of curbside HHW service. The residents contact the vendor to schedule a home pickup. The vendor sends them a collection kit, and the resident prepares their materials for collection. On the set collection date, the vendor picks up the prepackaged material directly from the resident's home. You can see in the picture here an example of the collection materials packaged and ready to go. Curbside HHW collection is offered year-round, and while there are no examples of curbside collection in New Hampshire, it is widely used across the country in both large and small municipalities. And Waste Management, which is one of the largest companies that offers curbside HHW collection, is currently in the early stages of offering its at-your-door curbside HHW collection for the Rockingham Planning Commission region. Some of the benefits of curbside collection: it is the most convenient option for residents. Residents can schedule unlimited pickups year-round on a day and time of their choosing. They don't even need to be home when the collection occurs. This is something that will resonate with this group. There's no transportation required. So this is the only option that allows residents who cannot leave their homes or do not have transportation to participate. It also eliminates the chances of accidents associated with self-transporting HHW materials to a collection. You can implement it immediately. Municipalities can begin participating in the program, assuming there's a vendor operating in their area at any time. There's no capital costs to raise or facilities to site and construct. It's very easy for municipalities to administer this program. For example, with the waste management program, waste management takes care of scheduling the pickups and answering questions from the public. Municipal staff are really only responsible for educating their residents about the program. Each municipality contracts directly with the vendor, so there's no critical mass of municipalities needed to participate. Curbside collection offers the opportunity for year-round education directly to residents. It has a higher participation rate on average than single-day events and relatively low cost per households. For waste management's program, households would pay $15 to $30 per year for unlimited usage. By comparison, participants right now currently pay $15 to attend a single-day collection event in Exeter. Some of the downsides of curbside collection: it has a lower participation rate on average than permanent facilities. The national average for waste management's at your door was 6.6% of households participating in 2024. And as I said, permanent facilities served at a minimum 10% of their households, but up to 14 to 17%. There's no public investment. So the money that residents pay for curbside collection services is primarily being invested into a private company rather than into a public asset, as would be the case in a publicly owned and operated permanent facility. And at a 6% annual participation rate, most of the money collected by waste management is profit. The $15 to $30 paid by each household could easily cover the operating costs of a permanent facility. Curbside HHW collection conducted by a private company would not be eligible for the state's HHW grant funding. And all residents in the participating municipality must pay into the program. At least with waste management, there's no option to opt out from residents. So RPC examined 4 metrics to calculate the feasibility of each collection option: market, technical, financial, and governance. Each metric was evaluated based on a set of questions and a rating scale. And after the feasibility scores for each method were calculated, each metric was given a weight to reflect its importance. I won't go into the details about how we answered all the questions. You can find that in the report, but given it's important, I just wanted to expand a little bit about how we answered the market feasibility question of how much support is there among residents and municipalities for this option. So RPC conducted 3 surveys to gauge support for each collection method among members of the public, municipal staff, and elected officials. The first survey was a survey of residents that we conducted across the region as part of our regional master plan update. And it included several questions about opportunities for expanding HHW collection in the region. The survey was available from March 15th to May 15th of this year, and we had a total of 902 residents participate. The second survey went to town administrators, elected officials, and DPW staff from each of our 26 member municipalities. And that survey was opened from September 4th to 19th of this year. We got 20 responses back to that. And then the third survey was administered to residents who attended the 2025 Exeter area HHW collection. That survey was open from July 1st to October 4th of this year. We received 400 responses to that, and respondents represented the towns of Exeter, Stratham, Epping, Newfields, East Kingston, Seabrook, and Southampton. So the table in this slide summarizes responses we got to key questions across all 3 surveys. Input was mixed on the benefits of adding single-day collection events. Only 33% of regional master plan respondents stated it would be beneficial to have more collections from single-day collections from April through October. Yet 63% of our municipal respondents and 55% of Exeter HHW participants said it would be beneficial to add single-day collections. There was strong support among all 3 surveys for establishing a permanent HHW collection facility. 68% of regional master plan survey respondents, 65% of municipal survey respondents, and 58% of our Exeter HHW participants said it would be beneficial to have a permanent facility that would allow them to dispose of their HHW on an ongoing year-round basis. And finally, support was low across all 3 surveys for curbside HHW collection. Only 22% of regional master plan respondents, 25% of municipal respondents, and 17% of Exeter HHW participants said it would be beneficial to have curbside HHW collection at home. Finally, there was strong support for obtaining additional cost information on a permanent collection facility. 100% of our municipal survey respondents said they would like to see a more detailed cost estimate for constructing and operating a permanent facility. So based on the results of our feasibility analysis, RPC recommends moving forward with the establishment of a permanent HHW facility in the region. Given the long time frame needed to implement a permanent HHW facility, we also recommend adding single-day collection events in the interim. And additional single-day collection events should focus on the Exeter, Brentwood, and Raymond programs, which currently have lower participation rates and only 1 collection event per year. We also encourage municipalities to consider trying midweek evening events in June, July, or August to fill in some of the gap that's there in the summer months and to help people who have to work on weekends be able to participate. So the following short-term steps are what we recommend to be taken to work towards establishing a permanent HHW collection facility in the region. The first is for us to secure funding to develop a permanent facility program report. And the report would identify program goals, materials that we want to collect at a permanent facility, desired facility features, like would the facility have a swap shop, whether businesses would be eligible to participate, and sort of the ideal operating schedule. The report would also gather data on the types and quantities of waste that have historically been collected among interested municipalities, and that would give us a better understanding of what the storage requirements would be for the permanent facility. We would conduct additional outreach to municipal staff and elected officials across the region about permanent collection facilities and continue to answer any questions they have. Reassess which municipalities are interested in participating in a permanent facility. and identify up to 3 potential sites for a permanent facility. And the geographic scope of that search area will depend on which municipalities express interest in participating. So again, thank you for your interest. Thank you for having me. And if I just have one last minute, I just wanted to close with the transcript of a voicemail that I received. This was probably a week after we've held the Exeter HHW collection, and the woman that calls says, "Hello, I'm a resident from Exeter, and I'm calling because we missed the hazardous waste disposal day on October 4th. We miss it every year because we work on the weekends, so we're really trying to find a way to responsibly dispose of this stuff. I'm wondering, someone at the town Public Works gave me this idea to talk to someone there at the Planning Commission. Are there any ideas you have of ways that we can dispose of our hazardous waste that's not on a one particular day? Really appreciate any ideas you have. Thank you." And this is not uncommon, as I think most people who run these collection events know. It's difficult for people to get to a single day event, and there certainly is a need for something better than what we're currently operating. So again, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
It looks like we're muted. Okay, now we're not.
Jill, thanks for the information. We've got a few questions in-house here.
Sure.
Go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, where can we go to find a list of permanent sites that we can take advantage of in our neighborhoods?
Unfortunately, there are not. The only permanent site in the state is actually in your region in Goffstown. And it used to be that when the Goffstown HHW facility was newer, they would allow residents from outside communities to participate. Before I worked at Rockingham Planning Commission, I was at Nashua Regional Planning Commission for 13 years, and I ran the HHW program there. And I would often send people who missed our collection events to Goffstown. Unfortunately, because they're the only permanent facility in the state, they got completely overrun by people. And now, understandably, only Goffstown residents can go. So unfortunately, there is not an option for a permanent facility unless you live in Goffstown, which again, I think is why there's a big need for this.
Question?
Mark,
So,
then we'll go over to
in your study, did you have an opportunity to look at how much hazardous waste, I'll call it leakage, sneaks past hazardous waste disposal and gets snuck into regular trash flow? I've got to believe that if it's not convenient or timely, that people just sort of put hazardous waste in a box and dump it in their regular trash. Did you ever look at how much of that may happen?
I don't have data on that. Anecdotally, I know we used to call it donated items, where household hazardous waste would show up tucked away in corners of transfer stations. And then the municipality was on the hook to deal with it. But that would definitely be good data to have, how much ends up in the actual municipal waste stream.
Thank you.
Richard.
Sure.
I've got a number of questions. Should the curbside pickup?
Yes.
You seem to insinuate that would be a tax issue. That would be how it'd be paid for.
That's correct. It's very similar to your municipal trash service. Every household in the town pays into it $15 to $30 a year. That's at least the way Waste Management structures their costs. And Waste Management is one of the bigger companies, and really the only company that we have a shot at accessing in New Hampshire. So it's fairly, on a household basis, it's not that expensive compared to what a household who would otherwise participate in a collection would pay. But if every household in the municipality has to pay into it, it does add up.
So hopefully they'd use it.
Right.
Sounds surprising if everybody's paying into it, and we know most households have hazardous waste. It surprised me that their participation rates were only shy of 7%. If I'm paying into it, I would certainly be using it, but.
Okay. This presentation, is there going to be a link to the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission site so that we can promulgate it?
Yes, so the Rockingham Planning Commission, we are in the process of updating our website, and so I haven't put it up there yet in the fear that it's going to get taken down. But yes, we will. I'll make sure that it's available, and it will have a permanent home on our website. I'm just trying to determine where that will be.
All right, my last question. You mentioned swap shop several times. Is this someplace where people could go swap their hazardous waste?
Yes, absolutely. And it's something we talked a lot about when I worked in Nashua. But again, with single day collections, it's hard to do. But these are done all over the country at permanent facilities. Some of your low hazard materials, like pool chemicals, maybe you close your pool or you no longer have a pool, you moved out of a house that has a pool. We used to get brand new unopened pool chemicals at HHW collection events, and a lot of the vendor staff would take them home if they needed it. So it's silly to pay to dispose of it, destroy it when it's actually good. So things like that, household cleaners that you might have bought to spot clean your rug and you didn't use the whole thing and you don't need it anymore. Again, we wouldn't be taking like unknown materials and putting them in a swap shop, but there's a lot of really lower hazard items that can be safely reused, and a swap shop's a great opportunity to do that.
Deb, you have a
So the
question?
answer is yes.
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 Well, thank you.
Deb, you have a question?
Yeah, my question was
Then.
exactly on the same lines, like, how would a swap shop be? The decision-making being, whether this is buying or handing out to somebody else, because it's kind of different. And I know my sister in Maine has a paint swap shop in their town, and it's well traveled. People drop stuff off, people pick stuff up, and it works out well. So
Yeah, absolutely. It reuses the materials, reduce costs.
So
Be great to have.
along the same lines, I was actually thinking, use motor oil. I know there are a bunch of people in Deerfield that burn motor oil or use oil for heating. Are there regulatory constraints to that, or would this permanent facility facilitate something like that?
The permanent facility could facilitate something like that. When I worked in Nashua, the city would take the used oil and they would actually use it at their landfill to run heaters. But yes, a permanent facility could facilitate having residents be able to use used motor oil as well.
But there's no regulatory bar to doing that. That was the question. Can't sell it, but they can pass it on to somebody who could use it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
James.
This is James Vale from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and Jill, I just have a question for you about how was all of the work that you've done in planning so far and all the sort of regular outreach that other RPCs do, is that all covered under a grant, or is that partly paid for through membership fees?
It's a combination. So the state has HHW grant funding. It's pretty small in terms of what municipalities get. I think for the extra area collection, we got like $8,000 last year to help offset our costs. We do some of the outreach through our member fees, and then we actually run the Exeter area HHW collection for them. And so we do a lot of additional work beyond just straight outreach and education, like actually registering participants, writing the grant applications, contracting the vendor, all that type stuff. So we do charge the municipalities that participate in that program for our hours, sort of like you would do for any specific planning project that's beyond your local dues. But so it's a combination of things: general outreach, covers under local dues, but then the specific program management for the Exeter event is something that the towns pay separately for.
Any other questions?
And that was similar to when, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jill. No?
I was going to say, similarly, when I was at Nashua RPC, we ran the collection events there under a solid waste district, and that was completely separately funded. Municipalities paid into the solid waste district, which then went to pay our staff time, but that was not done through local dues.
Any questions online? Seeing none, any other in-house?
Just want to thank you, Jill, for your time and visiting us today virtually. Much appreciated.
Again, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you,
I really
Jill.
appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvia, any other business to come before Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission?
I believe just the business of cookies is.
You heard. All in favor? Motion, Mark?
I've got a question. So there was the presentation was informational. Is this something that we may want to consider taking up? Doing something about?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly made note of DES's households, a hazardous waste grant fund. We don't have someone in-house right now that is like a Jill, who's an expert, obviously. She's been doing it for over 15 years, it sounds like. So we don't have anyone right now. I think it would require a lot of planning just to figure out how we would move in that direction and how we would be funded. Because right now we wouldn't have any funds, so. But it doesn't mean we can't, but there's certainly potential there.
I wonder if our towns would be interested in it even.
Right.
Sort of, would be a groundswell of interest and even potential some additional funding for such a.
Well, some of you might recall, years ago, not maybe years, maybe 2 years ago or so, I invited, I don't know if it was Milford, but the director, this was Styrofoam.
Yeah.
You remember
Yeah.
Milford? Guilford. Okay, I was close, just the wrong first letter. Details. Anyway, so from the town of Guilford, and she did a lot of work, and I think I tried to get a few communities interested in that styrofoam recycling. So, there's always interest, but the funding for us is the difficult part. I don't have funding for us. We used to have our, targeted, block grant funding, which was really minimal, 11,000 a year. That went away, as you recall, just this past year. So it's hard for us to break away on some of these unless we can figure out the funding.
Something to keep on the radar, though.
But it's good to keep on the radar.
The towns are, I don't know how much our town, we just had a hazardous waste day on Saturday, which I missed because there was so much else going on Saturday. But I don't know how much Chester had to put towards it to be in the group of towns. So, there's money, but it's going to a different pathway. So if there was a pathway through the regional planning, the money might come from a different slot,
Yeah, I could see that. I could see, potentially towns might be interested if you said, look, we're gonna take this, you don't have to worry about it. We're gonna come up with a regional solution, maybe if it's, drop off points, we do it, not one in every town, but, at big shopping areas or something like that, that's convenient for people, it might be interesting.
Something this presentation touched on that my town, India, when we have a hazardous waste day, they have a list of things they will accept. It's a limited list of things they will accept. She introduced other things, additional things that Candia won't accept. So that's something that really caught my attention is she's able to address in Exeter, I think she was from, address chemicals that my town can't address, which means like she discussed. So what you going to do with it?
Still in the basement.
What did you do with it?
So if waste management thinks it's a good deal to do, they gotta figure out a way to make money on it, right?
Correct.
So I guess the question is, what is the step beyond just the collection? So that, you know, how do they make money at it? And then how could a regional solution make money at it?
Is it a situation very much with like computer and technology
e-waste
stuff that you pay a certain fee? If you drop it off, you pay a certain fee, which goes to whatever the recipient has to do to get rid of it. Can you identify certain things that are not easily disposed but can be disposed? And you charge a fee for that. I think maybe people would be very inclined to do something like that just to get rid of it.
See, Staples has a program like that. They take.
Who does?
Staples.
Okay.
Oh, and so what are they doing with it? There's another outfit that has come up recently that's been brought to the attention of the Solid Waste Committee in Deerfield that will give you a container, pack it with everything you have, including some hazardous waste materials, all the electronic stuff that is.
Yeah.
Electronics. Pack the container, and for I don't know, $12.75 a container, it's done. Okay, so they're making money on it somehow.
One of the-
I don't know what the secondary market and that stuff looks like.
They have the aftermarket for that. Waste management is large enough and national. So that they know that if I accept this in this region, all I have to do is transport it to another.
Yeah, the question is, what is that?
I've got,
Who's buying that stuff?
I've got one.
The electronic waste is refiners, I think. The refiners extract precious metals from them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's melted down on beachfront towns in Ghana by 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Agbok Balash, the famous.
Same with Bangladesh.
Yeah, like shipbreaking and things like that.
How are the single day events funded? Is that something that the towns fund or is it?
Good question. Jill, are you still with us?
Yes.
Did you hear that question? How are the single day events funded?
The single day events are funded by the municipalities. They do also again receive a small amount of grant funding. That's the DES grant that I was talking about. So for the Exeter event, we received about $8,000 last year to offset our costs. And then some collection events charge a user fee to also help offset the costs. So in Exeter, our vendor charges us the $5,500 in the setup fee, and then they charge us $80 per vehicle it attends. We then charge participants $15. So that reduces our costs a bit off that $80. And the $15 covers up to 10 gallons or 20 pounds of waste. There are a couple other collections in our region that charge user fees, but most don't. We always charged a user fee when I worked in Nashua. We found that residents are really just grateful for the opportunity to dispose of their waste and really didn't ever get pushed back on, charging a small fee to help facilitate that. But the bulk of the funding comes from the municipalities.
Thanks, Joe.
And I guess just to answer the other question about, I think it was Candia that didn't collect certain materials, that's typically just contract negotiations between the municipality and whoever Candia uses as a vendor. So it's possible the vendor didn't want to take additional waste or they were going to charge more, but vendors can take a broad range of waste. It's just the way the contract's set up, what they take for a particular collection.
You mentioned grants.
DES grant.
What's your question?
Grants?
Yes. Do you have any source material on that so that we can research it?
Sure, it's right on the DES website, and I can send you guys a link. It's usually the municipalities, the grants go to the municipalities that are hosting the event. So there's a good chance that your municipalities are already applying for these grants. And I can actually send you as well a link so you can see which municipalities get DES grant funding for their events. But I would be surprised if your municipalities, at least a majority of them, are not already accessing this. And again, it's pretty small compared to the overall cost of the event, but it does help a bit.
So Jill, your work on this isn't paid by a grant?
The work on this project actually was pretty unique opportunity. It was paid by DES, but not through the typical HHW grant funding. It was paid as part of the Seacoast Drinking Water Commission. They're funded through the state, and DES had some money for them to look at household hazardous waste and how it was impacting potentially drinking water quality. So I felt very grateful that we got this funding. And if any of you have looked at the report, it's pretty dense because I knew there was not funding for research like this is few and far between. So I tried to make the most of it and get all the data we could in the past 2 years into this report, because it was a pretty unique opportunity. The DES household hazardous waste grants are really just for collection events to offset the costs of having the vendor come and running the collection.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Jill. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
That's Richard
Cookies away.
Gary.
So, I'd like to ask, what happened to, is it?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Smith?
I know.
Yeah.